Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Critical Podcast. I'm your host, Jimmy Good, and joining me once again is my co-host and podcast compadre, Mr. Joe Lever. Joe, how are you doing today, buddy?
Okay, and you?
I'm just fine. I love that long pause, like I'm asking you, like where you were 2 weeks ago, and like where were you on the night of the
13th?
Yeah. Oh, we've been doing this plenty, haven't we? Good. I'm great, man. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited because this week, well, actually, technically last week was the release of potentially the biggest movie to me personally, even though I just kind of didn't think about it for a while, and that was Godzilla versus Kong, something that has been leading up for a long time. And for a lot of people who do usually hang out here, we usually like to kind of go over some spoiler-free stuff before we actually get into it, and then I'll flip the old spoiler switch, which is really weird because today, usually we get sparks from it. I was messing with it earlier. It was making this other sound. It's really weird. Anyway, but I'll hit it later. Anywho, but we're going to talk about this today. So if you have not seen Godzilla vs. Kong yet, you can hang out for a little bit because we're going to talk about things in a spoiler-free way as much as we can, and then we'll flip the spoiler switch. We usually don't wait long to flip the spoiler switch, but anywho. Joe, Godzilla vs. Kong. I know that, so, going back, we talked about this before. We saw Godzilla 2014 in theaters together. Back in 2014 IMAX, crazy days. It sounded great. It was wonderful. My gosh. And then I have seen now Kong Skull Island, and I saw King of the Monsters in theaters. And then for the first time in forever, it feels like, if you want to quote a little Frozen there, I actually saw this one in theaters as well, which was really weird. I'll tell you that much. Thankfully, the place I went is really trying to practice social distancing and stuff at the time of this recording, still in the middle of the pandemic. But 2 seats on either side were blocked off. Couldn't sit like that close at all. And there was all contactless tickets and stuff, which was kind of weird because I feel like I could have gone in there and no one was like checking, and I could have just went and sat anywhere I wanted, like in a back corner or something. So it felt kind of weird, like walking. I was like, does anyone want to like scan my phone? Like nobody cared. But I could have stayed home and watched this on HBO Max, which last night I did again, just because I wanted to be super flippin' thorough, because I love Godzilla so much. I am very Team Godzilla. If you can't already tell by watching, I'm wearing a Godzilla t-shirt. It says he's king of the monsters, and you gosh darn right he is. Anyway, Joe, spoiler-free plot synopsis in like a sentence or two, because I feel like this whole movie can be summed up pretty quickly. What would you tell someone if someone's like, I have no idea, what is this movie about? I can't even, what's a Godzilla?
Monarch have Kong. Kong think king of monster. Godzilla loose on earth think king of monster. Godzilla mad, angry because of human interventions. And humans get mad at Godzilla. Humans release Kong on Godzilla. Epic battle. And other things.
Dude.
And
perfect. And other things. That's a great, because that sums it up. That sums up nicely. So, you've gone into this. Did you see Kong Skull Island? I forget if you have or not.
I have.
Okay.
Yes, I have.
So for you, what are your feelings coming out of this? Because you watched it at home. You watched on HBO Max, presumably. Did you feel like you lost anything not being in a theater for that?
I gotta be brutally honest.
Be brutally honest.
So, yeah, no, I am glad I was able to watch it at home. I don't know. How much is a movie ticket these days?
It depends. Mine was actually pretty cheap. Mine was only like $9.
Yeah, so that's not bad. I mean, would I have liked to have seen it in the theater? Yeah, but seeing it at home, yeah, maybe you lose a few things. I feel like more than anything, this film is a visually stunning and kind of like wide-eyed, glassy-eyed film. That's how I would describe it. Like, it's quite the wow. Oh, look at that. I mean, it's flashy. It's like somebody threw oh God, what's his name? Michael something, the director of Transformers, Michael Bay. It's like
Yep.
they threw him in a pit with a bunch of dynamite and said, "Have fun," and he found a way to light it all. That's kind of how I would explain the film, um, and that's what I'll give it. I think it would have been cool in theaters because of that,
Yeah.
and but I not a must. I think it was nice to have the option of watching it at my leisure at home too.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, totally. This has been something they've been building up for a long time, and the last time they did this was 1962, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been a while since they have had these two confront each other. And I would say for anybody who has seen the previous films, it's more of what you would expect. More cities getting destroyed, monsters fighting each other. If you like that, then I think you're going to like this. There is less for the humans to do. There's just less human stuff, I think, in this one comparatively to like King of the Monsters. One problem a lot of people cited with that film is that there was too much like focus on the humans, or maybe even Godzilla 2014. I've never really had too much of a problem with that, even though I normally come for the monster fights. And even rewatching some old Godzilla films on HBO Max, I did skip a lot of the people stuff because it's the bulk of those movies is like a lot of just people doing like weird spy things. But I've never really minded the people stuff as much in these, but this one there's a lot of people, but it's pretty quick. It's not as big of a deal. It's not the focus of the drama. The focus really is what the namesake is. And I tip my hat to Adam Wingard, who came into this, the director, and he was like, he understands that you watch these kind of behind the scenes features where he talks about, he's like, this is supposed to be like the biggest fight of all time. And he really makes good on this in a way that I really wish Batman vs Superman would have done it too, because this is not one fight. This is like 2 or 3 fights between these guys, and there is a victor. They really actually do kind of settle on it to some degree, which is cool because they said one will fall, and usually with these types of things, it's like, one is, like, did they really win? Did they really lose? Type of thing. This one, they kind of were like, all right, if you really want us to pick something. But yeah, this one is, if you're looking for the fights, this movie's got the fights, which I really loved. They're huge, and we'll get into specifics about them shortly here. But yeah, the people, I don't know if you watch King of the Monsters. I know, Joe, like you said, you saw that. Millie Bobby Brown is back. Kyle Chandler, who I love, is barely in this movie at all. For people who know Bloodlines or the newspaper show, I love him so much. He can make anything sound serious, and he always looks stressed like that. Like his characters that he plays, they always look like they're just like about to lose their mind. He's just like, so I love seeing him in there. But I don't know. I liked pretty much everybody here for the most part. I thought they're all pretty good. What they needed to be. There wasn't like, you're not here for the people. You're here for Godzilla and Kong, right?
Alexander Skarsgård.
Yep, he's in it.
Skarsgård.
Skarsgård. Do you like him?
I don't even know what it. I know the name. I'm trying to think of what else I've seen him in.
I think his dad was Bootstrap Bill Turner. Maybe, is that another Skarsgård from Pirates?
His dad.
His father, Skarsgård.
Sure.
I'll look it up while you keep talking about. Do you like Alex Skarsgård? That's such
no, not a big deal. Not a big deal. Not a big deal.
What?
Not a big deal. Over Christmas, by the way, my family and I, we watched that. What is that movie with Kurt Russell, and he's Santa, and his wife Goldie Hawn is Mrs. Claus. It's on Netflix original. It's
yeah.
He's Santa. What is it called? Kringle or something? Kringle? Anywho, the little elves, this Julian Dennison, I have the cast pulled up right now, who played Josh Valentine or whatever, the accomplice to Millie Bobby Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got the New Zealand voice, and anyway, he was in that as like a bad elf too, and he's there's something about him that's just interesting, and no offense, but slightly off-putting. I don't know what it is. I just don't.
Is it because is he from New Zealand? It sounds like he's got like a New Zealand accent.
Yeah, that's where he is from. I was just reading that.
And I think if you like that, you really like that or you don't. Oh, by the way, Stellan Skarsgård was the name of Bootstrap Bill Turner. Stellan, you might know from other things. Okay. I'm pretty sure that's his dad. I want to say it's his dad. I don't know. But yeah, okay. But he's in there. I found out that the actress who played the little girl in this film, who's kind of the uh, Kong's kind of attachment to humanity. The director was talking about this. He said, like, in these types of things, usually Kong has like a romantic interest, is like a beautiful blonde woman or something. He's like, in this one, it was more about like, I want to find a family member for Kong and someone who's like Kong, kind of last of her kind. But she's actually she's deaf, I believe, in real life, and this is her first movie. And she doesn't really, there's some stuff she gets to do, but they said she did like a really good job. And I thought for the most part, some of her stuff was pretty compelling. There's a lot of her pointing, like for Kong to go in a direction. She's like, go over here.
Yeah, the young girl, she's really.
Yeah, and they found her outside of regular channels, because like we needed someone who was her age, deaf, and also like looks like she could be, from the fictional place of Skull Island. So which I don't know if the previous films are necessary viewing though for this film. I don't think you need to have that. I think it helps with the backstory a lot. But if you just want to see a giant ape fight a giant lizard, then you probably don't care about the story as much, is what I would say. But I think there's a lot of people who maybe this might be one of their first forays into the Godzilla stuff, like the newer stuff, maybe because they're just like, I just want to see these two fight. Like, I just want to see them beat the tar out of each other. But the question is, Joe, would you recommend it for people? Was this something that you'd be like, yeah, you should go see this, or nah, or you should get a HBO Max streaming account for it?
Yeah, I would say I don't think it's something I don't know. It depends. If you got like kids or something, or a family that's really into the monster movie deal, then maybe pack up the car and head to the theater, or go out of your way for it. As far as HBO, if you got a chill weekend at home with the missus or anything like that, yeah, I think it's worthwhile. If you like these sorts of movies, if you don't mind the sci-fi action adventure, what would you really categorize this as? Mostly sci-fi, right?
Yeah, probably.
Right?
Yeah, so, sci-fi.
I don't know. It's fun. It's fun. I think if I were a critic or someone who reviewing this, you have to put on a bit of a different hat to put this one in the words, or rate it in any form. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. So
nice.
Yeah, sorry, I'm burning out.
That's fine. I just want to make sure. You didn't have anything else to say, because I didn't want to cut you off and be like, all right, here's what I think now.
Cut me off.
I think that this is the classic theater movie, and watching it both times, even though I did have some issues at the movie theater, the bass right away, I was like, it was just nice to like have the whole room shake. I went and saw it on a monster screen. It wasn't IMAX because this place wasn't affiliated with them, but it was still like a flipping massive screen. And just the sound, though, like we talk about with IMAX and things like big theaters, it was just cool to hear that, and it just like really shaking your seat, and that's kind of part of the experience of this one. So I think you do lose a bit of that with watching it at home, unless you have an incredible like setup, which some people probably do. But I was listening to it the other day with my headphones, and I was like cranking all the way up, and I was like, this is still pretty good, but it's not the same like type of thing. But I think, like I said, if you're into this sort of thing, you've probably already seen it. But if you're not, if you're on the fence about it and you want to get into Godzilla, this is kind of like, I don't want to say it's the epitome of like what you can do with the character, because it's not, but this is an easy entry, even if you haven't seen the previous ones, because there's some things they would say where you might be like, oh, what's going on with her mom? She's bringing that person up a lot. It's like, well, she was in the last movie. But this movie goes a lot faster. It's under 2 hours, which for big movies like this is pretty rare to see. More often than not, you see 2.5, 2:45 type of thing. So it's kind of nice that this movie moved along. It was just like, we're going, like even rewatching it the other night, I was like, yeah, this is moving pretty quick. So I really appreciated that. And regardless, if you like Kong or Godzilla more, you will have moments where you are excited. This is not a complete one-sided thing. They know that people are coming, and they both, they got to appeal to both. It's a little bit Batman versus Superman again, like that. I hate to keep comparing it to that, but There's definitely moments in there where, like, if whoever you like, they're going to get things, and they have made the considerations that you have made and the thoughts that you have thought. Most of them are put into practice here for each combatant, and it's really kind of refreshing. It feels like a fan made it really competently, like someone who understood these characters, and that's great to see. So, yeah, for me, it's just amazing that this is even a thing that's real, and they took time and money to make into like a big production. When I think of the old ones with dudes in suits, it's just like it's come a long way, right? It's come a
No
far
doubt.
way. So
Yeah, as far as CG and the quality
Yeah.
and the way everything looks, I'll give it that. It was pretty amazing that way.
Oh, for sure. And for people, before I flip the old spoiler switch here, for individuals who are interested in this, and I always forget to do this, but I love talking about it once in a while. But I want to talk about the box office for this because that is interesting on this one. So, in the past, we would talk about like what did well and what didn't do well. This actually international. Well, actually, let's start domestically. In its opening weekend here, 32.2 million. That's pretty good. Considering the times we're in right now. That's actually one of the better openings we've seen for a film in a long time. The fun part is that when we go international, it gets a little nuts. 237.3 million. So at the time of this recording, so far, it's only been out for about a week, 8 days, $285.8 million, which might not be the craziest metric you've seen, but during a pandemic like this, that's huge. I think it did really well in China because the setting, the ending, I should say the finale, a little bit of a spoiler, but it takes place in Hong Kong. And Hong Kong probably doesn't look the same anymore, I'll just say that much. But I'm happy that this did well. Apparently on a budget roughly of $160 million. It's getting close, and this is all just from box office from movie theaters. This is not including HBO. I don't know how they would, like Max, I don't know how they track that or how they determine if it's worth it or how many streams it gets if they're like, oh, clearly it's made money. But I'm happy to see it. I'm glad that people still love Godzilla and Kong enough to watch this thing one way or another. So I'm like, yeah, it's good to see, man. It's a movie theater movie, and it got me to go out to a movie. I haven't seen a movie in theaters for a long time. Last one I saw was with you, Joe. We saw Rise of Skywalker.
Oh my gosh, was that it?
I think so.
That's the last one I've been to a theater to see.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's what it was. I could be wrong. But anyway, so there you go. Well, Joe, unless you have anything else you want to say that's spoiler-free, I'll flip the old spoiler switch over here.
Flip it.
Okay. Here we go. Oh my god, Joe. It's Godzilla. He's roaring right now. It's beautiful. I love you so much. I love you, Godzilla. I was going to put it in the beginning, but I was like, I'll put it in there. Man, like I said, regardless of who you like, and we were joking about this the other week where you're like, I don't know how Kong could lose. Kong gets his hits in, and we'll go through the fights here. But, man, they make Godzilla out to just be the villain for the first chunk of this movie. Like, Godzilla's rolling in, just ripping apart Pensacola, Florida. Like, it just shows up. And I'm glad I caught on to this, and you probably did too, Joe, but the director was saying, he's like, we wanted to play him like Jaws. And they said the intro for him is just the fin coming into, like, Pensacola. And later on, there's part of a battleship that gets hooked to him, like the barrels from Jaws. And I was like, oh, they're doing all these little Jaws call-outs. And I was like, Godzilla as, like, the ultimate Jaws. And also, the director talked about this. He's like, I always thought the atomic breath was the coolest thing. It was so cool when you would see it. And he's like, I pushed really hard for you to see it a lot. And Godzilla is using this thing like, it used to be like his trump card, and it still is. But, like, he's using it, like, almost constantly. Like, like any second he gets a chance to shoot it, he does. And he does it liberally. He's just like, just, cause I'm like, oh, Godzilla, you're crushing it, buddy. Did you not like the atomic breath usage? Was it too much?
The only time it was too much, and this is a big spoiler, is when he frickin' melts a hole from the surface of the earth to the center of the earth. I was like, all right. Yeah.
I loved it. I saw a meme about it where someone was...
and they looked down at each other. like
Dude, yeah, they're roaring. They can hear. They can hear. I saw somebody do a meme of it. They're saying it was like if it were an anime, if Godzilla was like an anime protagonist, and like somebody was talking, just like a regular person, they're talking to Godzilla. I'm like, Godzilla, you couldn't possibly like blow a hole to the center of the earth. And Godzilla looks at him and kind of like puffs up his chest, like I can do anything if I just think about it, hard enough. And then he starts doing it, and you're like, is he really? He's gonna drill to the center of the earth with his breath. I thought it was great. I love it, but I understand where people would be frustrated.
All the exit? Yeah. I mean, you gotta suspend a little disbelief, but that was a little unfathomable.
Well, the Hollow Earth, upside down planets or mountains and stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
sure.
So, as that being far fetched, I can kind of appreciate what they did there. It's pretty creative.
Yeah.
Excuse me, and they were already going down that line anyway.
Sure.
But
yeah, okay, but we're getting ahead of ourselves here. I'm sorry. We should start with the first fight. We're talking fighting out
the breath.
I know. I had to talk about it just for a second because he starts off with the breath, and I'm like, man, he's opening up hard on Pensacola, Florida. He's just showing up. They're like, we thought Godzilla and I were buds. Because for people who haven't seen these so far, Godzilla has been like on the side of humanity, and they're like they kind of twist him in the beginning to be like, is he bad now? Why does he hate people? If Godzilla did this, there would be people out there, such as myself, who'd be like, yeah, there's a reason. Like he's like specifically chose this town. Like he wouldn't be like, I'm just showing up and blowing up some people on the beach. But the first fight that we get, where we get Kong out of his containment field, which, by the way, was a surprise to me. I don't know if you felt that way too, Joe, but like at the beginning where they're like Kong Skull Island containment unit, or they just said Skull Island, and he takes that tree and turns it into a spear and chucks it, and it hits that the dome. I was surprised. I was so amazed. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I genuinely was like, what? Because I thought he was just going to chuck it and like skewer something on somewhere else. I didn't know what he was doing.
Oh, yeah.
But I was like, that was cool. I thought that was such an interesting idea, and how much older he looked, like right there from the get-go. I was like, this is like an older Kong. He's kind of got gray in his beard.
Yeah, if I would have gone back and watched Skull Island closer to this, I might see that. But
sure. Yeah, he's like they say he's like a teenager in that one. The weird thing is that somebody pointed out it's the write-in too. They talk about how the storm overtook the island and then like killed everybody except the little girl. But somehow there's that containment unit. Monarch still somehow built a containment unit on Skull Island. But anyway, they get Kong out of there, and he's on an aircraft carrier. And I thought that was such an interesting fight to have them fight out at sea and to use the aircraft carriers as like little pieces of land for Kong to fight on, because Kong wouldn't be swimming, right? Like
that was pretty insane. I thought this is it for him. He's done. Then the whole depth charges and the shut everything down, so it's like he's dead and we surrendered, so Godzilla thinks he won, and it's like okay, but
they gotta stretch it out.
Yeah, in all honesty, I mean, I thought that was it there. And apparently, so Godzilla is one limber SOB. Like, this guy he's more like a snake.
Yeah, he spun around him when he got him in the water, and he wrapped around him almost. It was like a snake kind of crocodile type of like attack, and I was like, whoa, yeah. I didn't know that. I was like, or his tail is super long, and then he's kind of dragging him down. He's kind of swimming like lower and lower. I was like, this is so great, because that was an issue I had with the original Kong versus Godzilla, is that Kong wins in the water, and I'm like, what? How? Kong's gonna win the water? But that fight, man, I love that when they finally come together. Kong gets that first hit, though. I should say Godzilla hits him because he's kind of looking over the edge, and Godzilla hits him off the thing. But when they are both up out there, and Kong hits him right in the face, and Godzilla takes the hit, and then Godzilla kind of, I don't know if he scratches or backhands Kong onto his back. He just is like, whoom, and you're like, whoa, okay, we're going, boys.
I'm trying to understand the scale. Like, that's the problem, is the whole time I watch the movie, I struggle with the scale, and I'm like looking, and I'm like, okay, him on an aircraft carrier or a barge. Mm-hmm. Okay, now him in a city. And I'm like, wait, this building, like he's jumping from building to building like they're stumps, Yeah. I don't know. My brain automatically struggles with that, and that's a problem. I don't think there's anything wrong with the way the film handled it and everything.
Sure.
It's
I think
fine.
there's a chance that Godzilla also got smaller for this film, I don't recall, because if you look back at other films, I think there's a chance that he is actually, or was larger in those ones, but they were trying to say like, all right, like, if we want to bring him,
Yeah.
especially to some of these other cities, maybe it would have been a problem where he's towering over all the cities and Kong isn't towering over all the cities, and it kind of look weird. So I know what you mean, but
Yeah.
I was just like, and those aircraft carriers are massive, so I was just like, maybe I don't understand it. And the way they shot it, they did a lot of wide shots, so it never felt like Kong was huge, like especially the Hollow Earth segments. But like you have to think that like, oh, this is a massive thing I'm looking at,
True.
kind of. It's hard. I know
But
what you mean though.
yeah, when he did interact with Godzilla, I actually thought, wow. And I was watching with Drew, and we both kind of said, it is Kong bigger? Is he
Oh,
and
so
he
like tall or
kind of,
something.
yeah, I mean, like pound for pound, they were probably, kind of horse piece there or whatever. But like, I think like bulk, like, I don't know, like somehow in the size category, Kong almost seemed to be bigger than Godzilla in a lot of respects. But I think, Godzilla carries a lot of his weight down low.
Yeah,
He's
he
got
is.
some hips on
He's
him. And,
solid boy. He's a chunky boy. He's very
yeah.
chunky. We love him. Uh,
Uh, yeah.
I like that in that
I,
fight that Godzilla was killing those other battleships with like his tail, and he didn't even really seem to notice or care. Like he's just kind of going around. He's just like just smashing stuff. I'm like,
yeah.
oh, he's not even trying to kill these people. He's like, whoops.
Yeah, or that moment. I appreciate the fact that you called out the whole. They were trying to kind of pay tribute to Jaws, right? Or they wanted to play
Yeah,
him like Jaws.
thank
That's
you.
cool.
Yeah.
I didn't really pick up on that. Now that I think back to it after you said it, I'm like, yeah, you're kind of totally right.
Uh, I noticed it in the theater when there's half a battleship that breaks off and an anchor clips on Godzilla, and you can only see the battleship. And I was like, oh my god, this is a Jaws call out. And then he goes down, and then the ship goes down too, and you're like, where is he? And I was like,
And if you look, you see the bodies coming out of it as he's doing it.
did he?
It's absolutely morbid.
Oh god, that would have been great. Dang. Which, by the way, I'm glad that when they were showing Kong eat fish on the ship at one point, it's like pretty bloody. And I'm like, yeah, I guess it would be if he ate like a bunch of fish, and he's just kind of sitting there. He's like, like I'm eating fish.
Yeah, like the guts and stuff.
But I felt bad because I was trying to think of other movies where like one of the combatants is chained up and is like, let me go, let me go. Because before they let him go, there's this sense of dread because they're like, we tried to avoid Godzilla's normal like kind of hunting patterns or the paths he normally takes. But when you see Godzilla's finally coming, like Kong's like trying to get out of the chains and he can't. And you're like, somebody let him go, somebody let him go, because you guys got problems because your guns are gonna do nothing to Godzilla. Like Godzilla's gonna be like, I'm gonna kill all of you. So I like that he just found another apex predator though, and Godzilla's like, not on my planet. He's like, I don't care who you are. You're new to me, but I'm gonna kill you. He's just like, I'm showing up. I'm gonna wreck some shop and I'm gonna get out of here. Which is pretty great. I was like, attaboy. That's my boy. Come do his work. We love you. We love you so much.
I do like Kong for the most part. I like the way they did a good job with him. He's cool.
Yeah, well, he rallies a lot because he was not in his element at all in that first fight, and he does survive thanks to the help of the people. But then once
Or in any of the fights.
yeah, well, he does do a bit better once he gets into the city. But there's that whole segment where they get him to Antarctica. Which, side note, the snow in the fur looked great. Like in his fur itself, I thought that looked super good. I thought their whole strategy of like the whole Hollow Earth thing felt like so not tacked on, but it was such a weird like way to like we need Kong to lead us to a power source so we can defeat Godzilla with that power source. I was like, okay, but once Kong started running down into that tunnel, kind of doing the monkey bars down there, and then finally went into Hollow Earth. I've had a lot of people comment and say that they really love that Hollow Earth like segment and sequence and like how the world looks and the creatures within it, the things he fights, those like kind of weird snake bat things or whatever the heck
snake cobras or snake cobras.
Classic snake cobra, dude.
They were gliding, flying cobra,
flying cobra,
something.
flying vipers,
flying cobra.
Yeah,
because they had like the bat wings, but they were like only on the head, which made them look like a cobra, snake face, all that. Yeah, they were interesting, but
I thought
the whole thing with the gravity and reversal and all that. So like midway up in that world, like kind of in the sky ish or whatever, the gravity reversed and rocks were floating and Yeah, it was something else. But then, like this is where Kong originated. For some reason, I can associate a gorilla and ape is too relatable for humans. So it's very hard for us to go. It's easier for us to buy into, yeah, some weird reptilian monster
Sure.
can originate from the innards of the earth, but there's no way a gorilla, a giant ape did. I mean, I would just, no, because it's too human. Like, in the whole time I'm watching the movie, I'm like, oh, yeah, Kong, you the man, because he's he's an ape. He's got a humanoid face. It's
Yeah,
easy to identify or, yeah, want to relate to. So,
for sure.
as much as I like, things like Godzilla and the whole reptilian monster deal. But yeah, that whole Hollow Earth, with the way they did it in King of the Monsters, he goes down there to like slumber or whatever and kind of regenerate energy. The way they did that, it's like, yeah, okay, it's like a dark cavernous layer beneath the ocean. It's not like he's going through the Earth's molten core, which
Yeah.
apparently no longer is even a thing, or it is kind of.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say is the sunlight down there, because some people were saying like, why is there sunlight inside of the hollow Earth? And I was like, maybe that's the core of the Earth. That's really
Yeah,
bright.
maybe.
I don't know. Like they're
I
trying to
didn't
light
even
it.
think of that problem. I didn't
Right.
even think of that problem.
It's just a creative place that I really think they were. I didn't think they would add something like that into this movie, and they did. And I was like, I give them props for that, because you look at stuff like this, and maybe my brain goes right to Pandora or something like that. Big blockbuster movies with weird,
Sure.
crazy worlds. And I was like, okay, yeah, and you're right. I wouldn't originally think like a gorilla would be from there, but I think your hands are tied because it's like, well, we got to do Kong. He's really famous. And Kong's ancestors are from here, even though he doesn't look too different. Whereas Godzilla, you're like, oh, that thing could come from anywhere. It could come from space. It could come from under the earth.
Yeah, anywhere you name it, I'll believe it.
And dude,
No, well, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you bring up a good point about King of the Monsters, though. That was like a temple where like people had worshipped Godzilla, and that was like in one of the tubes of Hollow Earth or something. I want to know more about that society. I want to know more about those people and like the people who like worshipped Godzilla, like that
Shall
stuff.
we go back in time and do a throwback
And see the
flashback?
I just don't want it to be like Aliens, where it's like a bunch of Godzillas versus a bunch of King Kongs, because they're like, well, they've had a blood feud for generations. I'm like, I don't want to watch a lot of them fight each other, because it wouldn't
Is
be
that what
cool.
it would be? Would there be multiple Godzillas?
Yeah, probably, because I don't think he's related to the Skull Crawlers. That's the thing. So I'm not
No.
sure. But
Interesting.
that whole sequence where he finally gets in and he gets like the axe made of a Godzilla plate, I was like, there's a story there, and I wish I knew what it was, but they didn't tell
Yeah.
me. I
Did
was
you
like,
feel a little sad when he goes there? Like he's thinking I might find my
Yeah.
family or ancestors, and he doesn't find them. It's just everybody's gone, and there's an axe.
Yeah, it's
he's
like
just like, oh, that poor bastard.
well, but then he like sits down on the throne. I'm like, so he's the king of like Hollow Earth, and he's just kind of sitting there like, all right, like I got my axe here, and my family's probably dead. Like he's just kind of like,
In the
yeah,
end, is that where he goes to Hollow Earth again?
yeah. So they go down there, and there's a monarch outpost. Yeah, but I thought the sequence was kind of weird. Also, really funny. So during all the human stuff, they kill off the daughter of the main villain pretty quickly in that sequence, because she tries to fly away with this new power source, and Kong kind of grabs the ship and just kind of
Crushes it like dust. Yeah, she was the eye candy of the movie, and you can't have that kind of distraction for too long.
exactly right. Yeah. But I did like. I know you said you didn't like the part where I was like, they had to find a way to get them back together. So I was trying to think about it like this. I was like, so does Godzilla pull his energy, I guess, from the earth, and that's why like the axe lit up, and that's why Godzilla lit up, because he went to Hong Kong to figure out he heard this thing that was been calling him, basically, or something that's been drawing him, which is the creation of a third combatant, and maybe that's why he was like, oh, I'm supposed to be here. And he's like, but something's beneath me. I'm going to shoot a laser beam down here because I need Kong. We needed to get Kong back to the surface. And that was maybe the quickest way to do it. And it also just makes Godzilla look like he's flexing, because he's like, I could shoot a continuous beam through the flipping earth. I'll do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Like, I love it. I'm just like, yes. Yeah, do it.
Yeah, I mean, I get the coolness factor. It's a spectacle, but I also, the other part of me is just like, I struggled with it so bad. It was the one part of the movie where I want to like it so bad, but that was just that was a cringe moment for me. I was just like, no.
Why? That's what. See, that's the problem. Is you're going these things too realistically. You go into it. You're like, well, you're thinking of the semantics, or you're thinking of the logistics. You're like, well, let's just think about how much money this is going to cost Hong Kong now. That how many people are dead now, and it's like doesn't matter.
Think of the size. Even though they're gigantic, they're the size of a city. Not well, okay, they're not, but
They're big. They're huge.
they're almost that big, right? Almost
Yeah.
as big as the size of a small city, and taller than. Now, around the world,
Yeah.
or halfway around the world, point between halfway. I mean, that is just such an amazing amount of distance. And Kong just climbed up the cavern like it was nothing, and the gravity reversed on him. So on the way up,
It flipped.
it's pushing him out, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden he hits a reversal, and it's like he's actually got to climb now.
Yeah. Here's the way I think of it. When they went into Hollow Earth, they say it takes them it sends them like 1,000 miles in the span of like a few seconds. So maybe it's not
All right,
like,
he explained it.
I was like, maybe
Yeah.
they don't go to the core of the Earth. Maybe they just go like more like horizontal across it underneath Hong Kong eventually. I don't know how far away Antarctica is from Hong Kong, which portion they're talking about, but maybe that's where you would try to justify. Again, there's a sun down there. Is that the core of the Earth? I don't know, but I'm glad that they lit it because it's better than this. Like, yeah, I can't see anything down here, and Kong is blind now. Like, it's just darkness. And like, we found the
Kong
axe.
walked into a rock wall.
Yeah, you see the axe in
Got
the
a
distance.
concussion.
I see something blue over there. It's glowing. Let's just fly towards it. Kong, let's go. Yeah, but I thought for sure, by the way, in Hollow Earth, we'd get another kaiju. I thought for sure because we didn't get any other kaiju in this one, like from like King of the Monsters or another one from Toho. They'd be like throw one in there to just be like, oh yeah, Kong ran into, one of the ones we talked about recently. Like you could do a lot of them down there, or even like a Rodan. I don't know why Rodan would be down there, but just I don't know something because I wanted to see those other monsters that are still roaming the Earth around in the movie at some point, but it just never happened. So I was like, oh.
So is Pacific Rim related?
It's not, even though Guillermo del Toro said that he would love to do a crossover, but I don't know if their things are too different. You know what I mean? Like they're very similar. Don't get me wrong, but like the whole like there was a dimensional rift and monsters were coming through it versus this is like the monsters have been inside the Earth or from space.
Oh, Pacific Rim is a dimensional rift.
Yeah, because they can go in
it's
and
like in the Earth's crust under the ocean, right?
yeah, it's in the Marianas Trench or whatever.
Yeah, so they're not actually they're coming through an actual like dimensional
Like a
rift.
portal.
They're not coming. Yeah, they're not
Yeah.
coming from Hollow Earth or anything.
That's
the
where
problem is the name is the same. Oof,
is it?
kaiju, yeah.
Oh, sorry,
Kaiju.
it's both kaiju. Yeah, and that's just I think is Japanese for like large monster, like terrifying monster thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Plus, next thing you know, you got giant mech suits, and Gypsy's got the sword out, and we're freaking cutting Godzilla's tail off, and humans are the worst.
Exactly, they are the worst. I agree. Which takes us to it. Well, almost to it, but we get the fight in Hong Kong, which is kind of Pacific Rim-y. It's got that neon. It's at night. But I love how it looks. Those two fighting in Hong Kong. It looks really cool. Like.
This is just an American movie trying to get a foreshadowing payback on China for releasing COVID on the world. This is what we want to do to your city. No, I'm just kidding.
I think
it sounds so stupid and ignorant. I apologize. Just
it's a joke.
Everybody's familiar with the theory of the whole viral research lab,
Sure.
and that's where COVID was released from. All that good stuff, or accidentally released, and. For a split second, because we're so inundated with COVID this, COVID that, and for a split second, I think whoever made this is like, yeah, I'm going to show China what's up. Like this.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think it was Age of Extinction. That was the first one to me that I started to recognize this, and it's become more and more of a thing. But like, it seems like if you set your finale in China and
market.
and he captures the market, but it's like destroying it. So like to me, it's such a weird thing that like people are like, I want to go see it. They're like, look at these buildings. I work at that building. It got destroyed. It's just like, it's like I'll watch. I'll go see this movie.
Office.
I'm like, oh my gosh! Like I saw a comment on one of the videos like, I actually live in one of those buildings that got destroyed while I was watching that video, like the movie, like at home. I was like, oh yeah, my building's been destroyed. But I thought it was such a cool looking city, and after watching Captain America, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where they go to the fictional city of Madripoor. It gave me that vibe too, where it's like the neon kind of dark city, almost cyberpunky. But yeah, to see them fight, and they both really get their moments here. And if Godzilla takes round 1, they even say it in the movie. They're like, well, Kong took round 2, but Kong also has a BS axe that he gets, and I'm like, come on, man, what's up? Like they had to give him something, right? But he has that axe that
opposable thumbs. He can use tools, right?
I guess, but it just like they just gave it to him. It was like Mjolnir sitting down there.
Shouldn't he be a lot smarter? I mean, if he's a gorilla / ape, he should be more intelligent and be able to like problem solve.
And he does. There's a moment in the fight where he's like on a building and he has like, it's really cool. He's got a crane that he ripped up and he's like standing on a building and he throws the crane and it hits a building and Godzilla like goes to like the sound and then Kong jumps on his back. And I was like, I respect Kong. I respect the moves because Kong just
was a damn crane.
It was, dude. Yeah. Well, Godzilla's just like, I'm killing any loud noise. Like, imagine if you sneezed on the street, during all that carnage. Godzilla would be like, ah, and you'd be like, ah. I like that fight. It's knockdown, drag out, and like I said, it's kind of like the second they do kind of 2 fights in this. There's 2 kind of mini fights, as it were. But Godzilla and Kong really both get moments, and there's like these kind of theme park-esque moments where it's like you're from they're like the humans are on this little spacecraft, the Heave, the Hollow Earth aerial vehicle, I think is what they call them. But they like fly right by Kong's face, or they go right past Godzilla using the beam, and I think it's cool. I love seeing that stuff close up. I'm like, oh, that like from their perspective, it'd be like, wow, look at Kong, he's massive, going by his tooth. Or there's a lot of fun camera angles or camera movements in this one. They did like kind of like backflips with the cameras sometimes, and you're like, whoa, what am I looking at? And then it'd be like, oh yeah, what happened here? But yeah, I like those fights in the city because Kong gets a little bit of stuff to do, but he does get a great hit on Godzilla. He buries it in his leg, and I love that Godzilla, he's not going to grab with his hands, grabs with his mouth, just rips the axe out and chucks it at a building. I was thinking, if you were in that building and that's how you died, like this super axe of tail fin from Godzilla slams into the building, I'm like, oh my god. Like, it's massive.
There's no sympathy for human life in this movie.
No.
Like, Hong Kong, pretty much like 80% of its population was wiped in this film.
Yeah, which that's the way it should be in these movies, because people are like, oh, these guys aren't heroes. I'm like, it's not about heroes and villains. This is about these massive creatures. They don't care about humanity. Like, Godzilla's not going to worry about it.
We're just collateral damage. Yeah, we're not priority number 1,
Yeah.
Or even a priority necessarily.
Yeah. I do like, though, that during a lot of that fight, Kong understands that he needs to avoid the beam, and Godzilla's using it to like just cut through like all the skyscrapers. And I like that Kong's just moving and moving and moving, and finally Godzilla tags him in the shoulder. And I watched this just last night, so I can confirm Godzilla smiles. Like, Godzilla gets the hit and he's like like, there's like a shot of his face where he's like, I finally got that tricky guy, because he's been trying to hit him. Like, he kept trying to hit him, and Kong would, like, he'd elbow drop him, or he'd hit him with his knee, and like he tried to hit him out in the water with it. And Kong would jump off the ship, but like finally he tagged him with it, and you're like, oh, because Kong's like, oh my gosh, this is like super hot fire on my back. I'm not used to this. But I love that he got in his little smirk. He's like, but Godzilla really goes after him after that, like, kind of sort of loss there in that round 2, where he kind of, if it was like a championship boxing match, that the second round would go to Kong. But then Godzilla goes after him.
His ribs.
Well, he starts like cutting into him, and he starts like slicing his chest, and then he pins him on the ground, and he finally gets him, and he kind of roars in his face, basically like, you better submit. Kong's like, never. And Godzilla's like, you're not even freaking worth killing. Like, he like leaves him, and Kong like tries to stand up and falters and falls down. I'm like, oh my god. I was like, beautiful.
I don't even know how they got him back up after that, because it was like he crushed his sternum. Like,
yeah, he kind of puts him down because you're like, he's trying to curb stomp him, or he's trying to get him pinned to just be like, if I get you pinned, I could kill you right here.
He does kill him technically.
Yeah, or he's like about to die. And I don't. There's a few callbacks here to the original, and this is kind of what I thought they were going to do because Kong goes down, gets struck by lightning, comes back with laser or lightning hands. But this one, they decide to use this kind of energy source in the heave, the flying vehicle, to jumpstart his heart to bring him back to life. Which I thought was pretty funny. Apparently, there's another. I didn't make this connection. I haven't seen the movie in a long time. In the original, Kong is airlifted via balloons to a place, but this one it's Chinooks and Ospreys flying him to Antarctica, which is pretty great. And there's a moment where he tries to take the hilt, or I should say the handle of the axe, and shove it down Godzilla's throat, which is very reminiscent when Kong took a tree and tried to ram it down Godzilla's throat back in the day. He just grabs a tree and just tries to ram it down his throat. It's pretty aggressive.
A tree actually
it was like an actual tree. Yeah, it was like it was like the size of a tree, and you're like you're like, this is to scale, kind of. It's a massive tree, biggest tree I've ever seen.
Which reminds me, okay, when he's in Monarch Containment, Skull Island trees are what, gigantic?
Yeah, well, and they say that Skull Island is like it's like Hollow Earth come to the surface, so maybe trees could be that massive and that old because there's a perpetual storm around it and no one's cut them down. I don't know. I know what you mean.
Yeah,
it's like the size of a skyscraper. They're like the size of a skyscraper. Well, not even. Sometimes they go through them. But yeah, there's some good like use of using skyscrapers as like the like a fighting ring. Like there's a lot of like they slam into each other and they both like slam into a building and they're both like, okay, I'm okay. But then the building is like crumbles behind them or it just starts to fall apart and you're like, oh gosh, there's probably a lot of people. A lot of people in there. Just it's gone.
Well,
it's like,
yeah.
Which again, I'm not concerned with it. I just like the fact that they didn't care. This is what would normally happen. Guys, if this actually happened, this is what would happen. Like if these two monsters fought, it wouldn't be like ooh, let's go out in the desert. It'd be like no, I'm here for it. But yeah, so did you think that Godzilla was the worthy winner of this? Because we all know what I think.
I mean, he won. I mean, in my mind, he won. He won. Beautiful. You can't really argue with it. So.
Yep. And then they did exactly what Batman vs Superman, Dawn of Justice did. They're like third combatant out of nowhere, resurrected from death in a new form, right? It's like we did Zod into Doomsday, Ghidorah into Mechagodzilla, and I got kind of spoiled on this, unfortunately.
Is that historically true or accurate? It's always King Ghidorah.
They have done that in the past. That is not always the case. I actually watched the original one last night where Mechagodzilla first showed up, and I couldn't believe that I'd forgotten about this, but it used the plot line that I thought they were going to do in this movie, which is it's Godzilla, he's destroying a bunch of stuff, but then you find out that it was actually Mechagodzilla the whole time. And then eventually he sheds the skin and it's like actual Mechagodzilla. But this one was like he came out in the third act just to kind of fight a little bit. I thought they were going to go with Mecha King Ghidorah, and that's why they're saving the head. But they have done this in the past with other Mechagodzillas, so it's fine, it works. I'll be honest with you, I thought it was okay. I'm a big fan of the old Mechagodzilla. Obviously, they kind of built this around looking like the newer Godzilla. Kind of looks like that, kind of skinny. Got the little spin hands, which Mechagodzilla sometimes has, but didn't have the wealth of weapons that my boy usually has, Mr. Mechagodzilla. He usually has a literal arsenal. His first debut, he fights Godzilla and this guy named Caesar, which is like this dog guy. I think we talked about him recently, Joe. But there's this great moment where Mechagodzilla's between both of them. He turns his head all the way around, or 180, looks back at Caesar, uses eye beams, because he does have the mouth laser, but he uses his eye beams normally, puts a foot up on a rock and shoots toe missiles along with his finger missiles at Godzilla. So he's firing at both of them simultaneously, but he's in between them. It's like dual wielding pistols and like aiming at two people. It's super dope. It's very cool. And I was like, They should have done that. But he does have his missiles. He's got the laser, and I was kind of noticing it last night on rewatch. They kind of power him up with the same energy source.
Rocket-powered punch.
Yeah, he's got the rocket-powered punch, or like he kind of does like a shoulder charge thing. But when he uses it, it's kind of blue like Godzilla because it's like the same energy source when he does like a punch. And I was like, oh, maybe that's why he's doing so well against him, because he's like kind of using that energy to hit him in the face.
So their challenge with that Mechagodzilla that the humans were developing, which was when it was powered up, was creating a no. It was something with the eyeball or something to do with
Yes.
King Ghidorah's signal going to the part of the Mecha Godzilla
Yep.
that was creating a signal that Godzilla was honing in on.
Yep.
They don't totally explain that too much because it's basically the eyeball in a room that's creating some sort of ping, the
Yeah.
eyeball for some reason. And they don't do. I mean, granted, it's all about the Kong and Godzilla fighting, and then
Yeah.
Mecha becomes like the reason for them to come together, and join forces, and it becomes a buddy cop movie.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a bad way, but that's what kind of how it develops. Anywho, I'm all over the place. I'm
That's
just
fine.
trying to think. They don't explain some of those things very much, and granted, they don't want to make it some really long, crazy movie.
Yeah.
But then we're looking at like Justice League type stuff, right?
Sure. Yeah. 3-hour Godzilla movie.
Yeah,
I'd love it.
I just
Not a big fan.
how first of all, big Kahuna's daughter, who's there to babysit, and then tries to fly away with the sample. First of all, how do they get the sample and transmit it to the surface? Well, I mean, I see the robot gets a sample and it's analyzing and transmitting data, but they replicate the energy.
Yes, that's correct. They replicate it that
They
fast.
do it within yeah.
Yeah. You're right. It's weird. I agree. They do it really fast, so it's not like they have a portal that brings the crystal up and then they take it and they slot it in, which they probably could have done in a different version. But I think they were just like, all right, we need to know how to make this energy because we're close, and now that we know, we can do this. Maybe it taught them how to make a new element, but you're right, it does do it really fast. It's just like an upload thing, and they're like, once it's uploaded, we will have it. And I'm like, you'll have it. You're uploading the data, and you'll be able to. You're going to replicate it that fast. The turnaround at your company is insanity. Like, it's so fast.
We had all the ingredients. We just needed the recipe.
Exactly, right? That's probably what they would say. Sure. I don't know. They're like, we should have mixed in more plutonium. More plutonium. That's my bad. It's always plutonium.
Clearly,
oh my gosh. Yeah. It's okay. That's first question answered. I don't know why I could field these, but I'll try. I'll defend this movie. I don't know why. I'm just doing it.
I don't know. There's certain things like that. There are quite a few things in here, and it's to be expected. You got to suspend your disbelief, right?
Yeah.
And Drew and I were talking about it, and it is. It's one of those types where you just have to do that. Mechagodzilla, since we're on that, I liked him. I thought the problem is when they did that, they make all of them like I expected Kong to be pretty acrobatical.
Yeah.
Godzilla, I've never seen it, but he was here. And then freaking giant mechanical Mechagodzilla. I don't know what the hell that energy source was, but that guy can move. Like after he was done fighting these two guys, I think he was gonna go do like some sort of like kung fu fighting dance, like those dance groups, hip hop music. Like he was gonna just start.
Okay, so dancing. You just mean that Godzilla was faster than you thought. He wasn't necessarily an acrobat. It wasn't like Godzilla's doing backflips off the buildings.
I mean, not like that, but like when he was tussling with Mechagodzilla, like they were rolling around in the city.
Yeah.
Like a couple of rabid dogs on the street in a scuffle in a cloud of dust.
I think that was purposefully sped up because you're right. It did look like they were moving really quick, but I think that was on purpose because they would like if Kong and Godzilla really took a swing and it was that heavy, right? It might be like a really slow, and then picking up speed, and then hitting. Yeah, so I think that's why they moved it faster.
Drew and I got in a whole physics debate after this, and I eventually just kind of rolled my eyes and gave up because it's not worth it.
Wait, were you
not that we were not that we were disagreeing. We were just trying to kind of figure out in our mind like something that big. Drew thinks it's like 1 for 1. It's like, if I were 1,000,000 feet tall, I could still swing a punch like I normally can. I'm like, no,
yeah, I don't know if that's true.
You can't because like the effects of gravity are so much more. He says, but your scale of power is still the same. Like as you grow, so does your power at an equivalent rate, and so you should still be able to move fast. I'm like, can you? There's you can go online and there are literally like people with degrees in physics that'll say, yeah, no, if Godzilla was real, I mean, he'd basically collapse under his own weight and all this, and so would Kong, and it just doesn't work, and the whole gravity effects would just kill him outright, and this and that. It's like, okay, yeah. So, and I get that. I don't have a problem with the fact that they exist in these movies and all that. I can suspend my disbelief as far as that. I want them to be. Like I like
I
Godzilla
want you to
and
exist.
Everything. It's cool. Yeah, I know that sounds silly, but I mean,
no, man, I do too.
But so we kind of got into that whole debate, but still, in my mind does not. I can't look at them and perceive like that they would, for some reason, because my brain is like, King Kong, he'd be swinging and real fast and all that, and then but Godzilla, that guy is like, I'm coming for you. Why do I perceive him as slower? Maybe because he's not built the right way. Like I look at Godzilla and I see an A-frame like this, head at the peak, and then I see giant ass, wide ass hips and legs.
Dude, that's all muscle.
That guy's moving much.
That's all muscle. He's like a Komodo dragon, right?
It's just hard for my brain to wrap around. It's kind of like one of those unfathomable things that it's like you just can't explain. Just live with it and be done with it.
Yeah. I'm sorry. This must be so hard for you to watch these films because you're like, I want to enjoy this, but I'm just thinking about like the fact that Godzilla shouldn't even be moving at all. He shouldn't even exist. Are these people all in their brains? Like they always like a gas leak around the entire world. They're all like, there it is, and there's nothing there. It's just like,
I mean, but you know what I mean? That's kind of hard. I mean, I'm sure for anybody listening right now, it's like, could they, what would your swings and motions be like if you were like, or it's like the Ant-Man thing.
Sure.
Like in Ant-Man and Marvel,
he's slower.
He's slower.
He is slower. Yeah. Typically. Yeah. Usually, I believe.
Say, I don't know. I mean, granted, how scientific is that? I don't know. They try and make that stuff pretty realistic and all, but I don't know. It's interesting to think about or challenge yourself to think about things like that. But yeah, nonetheless, the Mechagodzilla coming back to center here, I thought was pretty cool. I like how, to counteract the weight and everything that they're using, like the jet propulsion, like when he's kind of falling backwards after doing a somersault movement, he like jetpacks and pushes himself back to counteract all that momentum.
That's great. Yeah.
And then using jet propulsion to get more momentum and velocity behind punches and things like that. That's always cool. So they made some of that stuff really cool. And I guess I would call it realistic. And the other part of me still comes back to the whole, but he's huge. How can he move so fast? And I think about, it's a giant machine. I don't know what that power source was, but holy shnikes, I want some.
Man, that's good. That's good stuff. Ghidorah loves it. He's like, oh man, I'm in it.
Because I think about like giant equipment or like giant ships.
Yeah.
The amount of power and energy it takes to make those monstrosities of human engineering move. And I just think to I work on construction sites, watching a crane do something or watching an excavator work. I mean, there's so much power and energy into making those things move and being able to move the weight of themselves, yet alone the weight they're carrying and all that. So I think of Mechagodzilla and I'm like, holy crap. Not to mention, and by the way, at the end of the movie when Godzilla chops him up into pieces with the axe, which was dope.
Kong, you mean?
Yeah, Kong.
That would have been amazing if Godzilla grabbed with his mouth and it's just like, freaking, I'll kill you. I saw the gorilla doing it. I'm doing it now too. That'd be incredible. That'd have been incredible.
No, all I think about is like all that oil that spews out on the Kong. I'm like, Kong's dead.
No, he's covered in it.
He just boiled alive in hot oil.
He's fine. It was the cool stuff. It's kind of great because going back and watching the detail of Kong trying to hit Mechagodzilla after he kind of gets revived and he can't break through, and it's this anime moment where Godzilla kind of looks and is like, I'm smart enough to realize I'm gonna power up his axe, and then he's gonna take the axe and he's just gonna chop through it, because for most of the fight with Godzilla earlier on, Kong was using it to defend against, or there's that moment where he kind of grabs the beam and they kind of meet and there's that explosion. But I love that. Dude, yeah, and I just love that. I love that there's that combo, and like, yeah, Kong rips him up, and then there's that moment where Kong, like, they do it so that way that even though you could say Godzilla is the victor, Godzilla probably wasn't going to be victorious against Mechagodzilla because there was a fight beforehand, and this thing was developed to kill Godzilla. So Kong beats him in tandem, and he gets the rip the head off moment, and kind of like, I'm freaking King Kong. So if you're a King Kong fan, you get that moment where you're like, ha, my boy, like he's doing stuff.
Yeah.
I love that.
Sure.
And then Kong's, like you say, he's covered in oil. He's just kind of sitting there. Everybody's kind of having that moment. And then you hear Godzilla's roar, and everybody's like, and then Kong like grabs the axe, and Godzilla just kind of like looks at him, almost gives him a nod, like, I'm not going to kill you, but just don't get in my way. It just kind of takes off, and everybody's like, oh, okay, he's chill. Like, he's okay. He's like, yep, got no problem.
I'm just saying, you ever smell burnt hair, Jimmy?
Yes, I have. I have. It's not great.
Smell, right? That's what Kong smelled like.
He's tough. Well, you got that burn from Godzilla, and that oil didn't. I don't know. It wasn't burning oil. Maybe.
I'm just kidding. But immediately my mind went there. I'm like, oh my god, that oil's got to be hotter in hell. He's dead.
That's how he loses
he
on a technicality.
Today, but he's dead. He loses on a technicality.
Godzilla would have just been like, I don't. As long as they're all dead. And I do like that the movie is based around like these humans who are like, we're going to be the apex predators. And I'm just like, don't do it. I'm like, why would you? Like, you're all going to die. And
I mean, it's clear that they just need to make more Mechagodzillas. And
more of them. Make like 3.
Them, we win.
Yeah.
Make 3 of them.
I think the guy who's Japanese in that one of the villains, Shirazawa, I think he's supposed to be Ken Watanabe's son or relative from the previous films, and he was all about let them fight. I don't know if we're going to get stuff that was cut out where it was like, my father always wanted them to exist, and I always hated them, and I wish that we could kill them all, so maybe that's where like his character motivation came from, wanting to kill Godzilla. But I don't know. I still wanted Mecha King Ghidorah. Maybe I'll still get it. And I love Mecha Godzilla so much. I just wanted to have his eye laser beams. I know it's stupid, but that was like his thing that was different. And his little missiles. He did have missiles, but there should have been some coming out of his toes and his fingers. It would have been so great. Oh my gosh, that thing. Yeah. I'm sorry you get so hung up with the physics of it all, because for me, maybe I just grew up with it, and I love it, and I don't care. I'm like, perfect. I'm like, it looks realistic now. I totally buy it. I'm like, look at him blow up all those buildings with his infinite atomic breath, which I swear was just him breathing in this movie. Like, almost everything he did was he's just, I was like,
yeah. Oh. I mean, is there anything we want to say about, like, we've kind of covered the monsters fairly well. And Mecha, is there anything to say about the people?
Spoilery that we didn't already say? I don't know. I thought they're all fine.
What did you think about the engineer? What was his name?
Oh, the conspiracy theorist, the podcaster, like us.
Yeah, Brian Tyree Henry, who played Bernie Hayes, the engineer for whatever that tech company was.
I thought he was pretty funny. I thought he was interesting.
I like the whole water gag, like you drink tap water.
The tap water, yeah, then calling that person tap water.
Yeah.
What a great nickname for someone to call him tap water. Be like, hey, what's up, tap water? It's like, well, come on, man. Like, we're all drinking tap water. It's like, I don't. Or he's like bathing in bleach.
It's clear she's calling the shots, so I think we'll be all right.
Yeah. She's a bit different in this one. They kind of give her, she's definitely different than King of the Monsters. She's more of like, she's an activist in training, right? And I love that her dad, Kyle Chandler, is just like, he's just in Monarch now, because like in the last one he was like, I don't want to be part of this stupid group, and now he's like, I'm running it now. He's like, I'm tracking Godzilla every darn day, and you know what?
My wife died for this shit. Now
exactly.
I'm gonna run this.
He's like, my son died to Godzilla, but I've kind of forgiven him for it because it wasn't his fault specifically. He's like, come on. But yeah, I don't know. I thought they were fine. I thought the best part, and I had people laughing in the theater with me, is later on, because he doesn't have a lot to do, or there's not a lot of stuff for Skarsgård to actually do as far as like a big personality. But at the end, when he kind of goes up to the little girl and he's like, you are a very brave person. And he does the symbol for coward. And like everybody in the theater, there's some people behind me who thought that was so funny. And I thought it was funny on top of the fact that they were laughing at it, because I was like, that's a good joke. I was like, it's a callback, because people are like, oh, and they're like, the kid realizes, and she's like, yeah, we're both And he's like, yeah, maybe we're both brave people. I'm like, they should have played into that more. He should have been like this scientist who's just super thick. Because I thought earlier on he was going to be like, I've known sign language the whole time, and like he was going to be a villain. And so at the end he's like, you called me a coward from day one or something. But he was just like a kind of a weird character. Like he kisses that lady on the cheek early on. I was like, just play into him being this weirdo, like just doing super weird, being like, you know, I don't know. I thought he was. I liked all the humans though. I thought they were good. You know, sometimes they can be insufferable, but this was
Yeah, I thought
it was just enough. I also thought the bad guys, I like that he was like kind of maybe Spanish or something. He had this kind of cool accent. Like, he's like, oh, yes, welcome to Apex. You know, and I was like, oh, it was almost like kind of Pedro Pascal-ish. I was like,
yeah.
You remember that guy? Simmons?
He's a Mexican actor.
Okay, yeah. I was just, he had
Walter
that kind of,
Simmons.
he had a cool name, or like, I was like, oh, this guy's pretty neat. You know?
Yeah.
And it made sense what they were trying to do. You know what you really should be worried about, Joe, is the fact that like anything like this multinational corporation would be able to make anything like this without having a leak beforehand. Like if a Mecha Godzilla existed, some janitor, somebody would have taken a picture at one point. Like there's so much energy and the resource. Like, what are you building in this mountain? They'd be like, nothing. And then so don't you come over here? Like, it's fine. I was like, and they had that train running from Pensacola to Hong Kong. Pretty incredible, dude. That's tech, right? That
was something. Magnetic kind of transport tube. That's kind of what's that's basically kind of what Elon Musk wants to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Like coast to coast with the high-speed bullet train thing that's like on magnetic rails or whatever. Or
yeah.
Magnetic. I don't think he's on the train anymore, pun intended.
Did it bother you at all that like they got into that testing facility and there wasn't like any alarms that went off? Like they released the skull crawler, which was a nice tie into Kong. And like Mechagodzilla destroys it. But I was like, there's these 3 people running around screaming in your testing facility, and you never noticed. Like it's like they're just running around going like, ah! It's like you're watching them kill this thing, and you're like, oh, some people down. Like nobody said that. There was just like, it's just classic tests. They got there, man. They snuck in. I like that he would maybe have the knowledge, like he has a throwaway line, but he says the conspiracy theorist. He's like, I worked at the other place. I probably know where the exit is. It's kind of like Finn with the Death Star and Star Destroyer stuff, or kind of like being like, I know every one of these, and I'm like, would you like?
Finn was written into he was destined for greatness, and they wrote him into a pit.
You mean you're talking about Star Wars now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
That's fine.
Sorry.
I didn't know.
Star Wars. I got off on a trail.
I'm sorry. I thought you were going somewhere with that. I was like, okay, that's fine. I
was gonna go somewhere.
Yeah, no, but I liked all of them. But you said that the young guy was kind of off-putting to you. Was it the accent? You said was it something he said specifically?
All I can picture is him in that Christmas movie is that
like an evil little elf.
Troll, yeah, the evil little elf that turns into the evil little chubby child. No offense, and he's running around like, I'm going to ruin Christmas, Santa. But he's got the New Zealand accent, and it's just like, all I can picture is that.
I'm sorry. So between him and the mind-bending physics of this film, you're sitting there, there's like another story playing in your head right now, because you're just like, every time they introduce a new thing, you're like, I don't like that kid. I don't like where this is going. Physics-wise, this doesn't make a lot of sense to me. He's drilling to the center of the Earth. This is a bunch of BS. And here I am. I'm just like, woo, Godzilla, yeah. Like, kill them all, buddy. Gosh, I love him so much. I wanted him to call somebody in to help because he's the king of the kaiju. I thought he was going to call in. He's like, hey, Rodan, deal with this flipping ape. Like, that would have been so great if he's just like, go kill him. Like, he didn't want to do it himself.
The Pteranodon?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the fire one or whatnot, which I was surprised.
Yeah, let's have him. Yeah, we don't see any other monsters in this
I wanted to so bad because they had like a weird spider one, and there's like the one with the tusks. I was like, oh, these are all really weird. And I was like, maybe Kong will beat one of them up, and Godzilla will be like, that's my job. Like, that's my thing. Yeah. You can't be beating up my buds. And by buds, I mean my servants. Because at the end of King of the Monsters, that great shot of him like roaring and they're all bowing to him. I'm like, oh my! For me, that was like my Godzilla moment. I was like, look at him, he's so beautiful. I do want to mention something else, and I don't know if you would care about this as much, but Tom Holkenbrook, aka Junkie XL, did the music for this film, the score for this film. I thought it was fine. I just prefer Bear McCreary's from the last one, which pays homage to the old Godzilla stuff and is just so freaking good. It's like that old the bum 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 bum, like that stuff. I wanted to hear so badly in this like movie, but they didn't have that. And like I said, the new stuff was fine. I thought it was pretty good too. But I just King of the Monsters has that so good, man. It is. Oh. I love it.
Yeah, we don't get as much of not his roar, but his
the trill, the end of it, like because it's the beginning. Thing, yeah. They kind of cut it off a few times, and I was like, oh, I really wanted that again because it's so good. Like he right in Kong's face, I was like, oh,
yeah,
beautiful.
Oh, and for a second, I thought the battleship scene with Kong getting loose of the chains and then them fighting out at ocean. I thought for a second it was going to go to them like standing in the water, going toe to toe. I was going to be like, wait, what?
Yeah, like how deep is it? Yeah, because I was thinking about that.
How deep is this?
I was thinking about it because Godzilla kind of props himself up at one moment. I was like, oh, he's probably like, he's kicking his legs or his tail's going so he could do that because at the end where he looks at all of them and he's kind of like, okay, well, I guess everything's fine here. And he kind of turns and goes into the fire and it's like, oh, okay. But yeah, he's probably he's floating there. He knows the water. And I don't know if he needs to breathe, if he's got gills. He's a fascinating creature. I just love Godzilla, man. It's so good.
Yeah, I know the 2001 or whatever it was, or the 1999 one.
98 or 7, which one of those? Matthew Broderick.
Yeah, Matthew Broderick. Anyway, that one, there was something about gills, wasn't there?
I don't know, but it was in the water a lot. A good chunk of it.
Pretty sure there was something about gills. Anywho.
I know it probably will never happen, but if you're going to have any expletives in these movies, I want it to be Matthew Broderick running in a city going, I can't believe it's this effing S again. Like, like it's his character again. Just being like, oh, like, just him swearing and running down a street being like, not again. I would love it so much. I would lose my mind. People like, it's tied in. They're the same universe. And I'd be like, no, it's a cameo. It's just kind of fun. Like, because they didn't really need to, like, this movie, it's a PG-13, but it's like, there's not like swearing. There's not like any sexy stuff in it. There's not like a lot of gore. It's like a really soft PG-13 because it's like big monsters. If you take away the thought of thousands of people dying in the aftermath or during the whole thing. Like,
or you don't notice the bodies that go floating out of the back of the battleship.
Did that really happen?
I'm pretty sure. If you
oh my gosh, I gotta look back.
You see stuff. You see a thing or two come out of the back of the hall, and
attention to detail. There's so many people. Did you notice there's some other people, and this had like one line? There's this one guy in Hong Kong who's been in a bunch of stuff, really like famous actor. He's a voice actor for Destiny, and he's talking to Kyle Chandler's character, and he has like one thing he says about Hong Kong being evacuated, and then he's just gone from the film. And I was like, you got him for like one thing? Like, does he love Godzilla? Like, did they get him in on the day? And I was like, wow, that was pretty quick.
Trying to think who this guy would be.
Does a lot of voice acting for games, been in a bunch of movies.
Ronnie Chang.
Not Ronnie Chang. Not Ronnie Chang. I don't know what his name is.
Ronnie Zin Yi Chang is a Malaysian comedian and actor.
Oh, he was the guy that they were trying to buy the bleach from. That was that whole little like weird scene where they're going to try one last place, and he's like, if you buy a live fish for me today, I'll tell you where his address is.
There's people on this cast that I'm like, they weren't in this movie.
There's a lot of people in this movie that are in it for like a blink and you miss it, and I'm like, what? But yeah, I was actually watching a lot of like interviews with the cast, and it's funny because they actually interviewed Kyle Chandler again for a lot of it, which is weird because he's barely in it. But everybody else seemed so stoked to be there. A lot of Team Kongers, though. A lot of Team Kong folk, which I don't know if I'm okay with that, but that's okay. Millie Bobby Brown is Team Godzilla, so I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. Millie's got it. Did you know she's British? If you ever watch Enola Holmes, she's British.
Yes. Yeah, I've seen Enola Holmes. I thought Enola Holmes was actually a really good film.
It's Henry Cavill, man. He's in there. He's the
Yeah,
most jacked Sherlock you're ever gonna see in your life. He's like, I solve problems with these, my guns, and he just rips off his shirt. And you're like, oh my gosh, watch out, Henry.
Yeah. So speaking of time killers,
Wait, or yeah, I was gonna say we should probably. Do we have anything else you want to say about Godzilla versus Kong before we wrap it up here?
You want to hear what my rating is? I give it a 5.5 out of 10. And that 5. All right, I'll give it a.
No, give it whatever you want, man. It's your score. I mean, however wrong it is.
No, I'll give it a 6, and pretty much all of that is just the fact of it's visually stunning, and it's entertaining in that regard too.
Lance Reddick, I think that's who it is. Yeah, Lance Reddick. That's the name of that guy. Like I said, I moved away from scores kind of a while ago. I would recommend you see it, even if you're not a big fan of this type of stuff, just because this is like one of the biggest ones you're ever going to see. So if you ever had to watch one of these, I'd say just hop in here. You don't necessarily have to watch the previous films. I enjoy them. You don't need to watch them, but you could, and it's just fun. Do what Joe can't. Let go of the thoughts and the science behind it. And just accept that there is a large laser beam firing lizard fighting a gorilla with an axe made out of that very same lizard's plate or one of the other ones. Like, they lit up in the ground underneath, and it looked really cool. I didn't understand how it all worked. But anyway, it was sweet looking. There's those weird bats down there, too. There's like, remember that snake thing that was flying and it like put its wing over his face? That was messed up. He was gonna lose to that thing before they got the missiles in it. And I was like, Kong's freaking beat up everywhere.
It was gonna suffocate him. He wasn't prepared for it. He didn't know what it could do.
He had a hard day. He got beat up by Godzilla. They flew him to Antarctica and they're like, hey man, good luck with this. He was waking up from the sedatives. He fell down that hole, just jumped in the gravity hole. Which, by the way, he survived that fall, which is pretty amazing. I was like, oh, are they going to help him out? It was like, no, he's just going to grab onto a mountain on the way down. He did it. But anyway, I'd recommend you watch it. And yeah, but if you're not into big monsters fighting each other, if this is really not your cup of tea, it's pretty breezy. Like I said, under 2 hours. And if you have HBO Max, I would say check it out. If you don't have HBO Max, this, along with the other cadre of things they have on there right now, you could probably enjoy. It's only going to be on there until like April 30th. So keep that in mind. So if you're watching this in the future, there's a good chance that it's not on there anymore if you're watching it way in the future. But you have a couple weeks to check it out still, if you haven't already. Is this one to go see in theaters? I would say yes, but if you're not feeling safe, I totally understand that. So, yeah, just keep all that stuff in mind. And let us know if you are Team King Kong or Team Godzilla. And why are you Team Godzilla? Why is he better in every single way? No, I like how he kept snapping. He was biting a lot in this movie. I liked it. He's scratching at his chest. There should have been more blood pouring out of Kong. There you go. I'm back with you on the physics thing. Kong should have just been bleeding, people drowning in the streets. Like, it's just... my gosh.
I don't disagree.
Joe's like, this should have been an R-rated film. It should have been a 3-hour R-rated film. Zack Snyder's like, perfect. I agree. No, I'm kidding. Zach, you're great. You're good too. Anyway, thank you, Joe, for sharing with me your feelings and thoughts on this. It's cool to have this happen. I hope there are more of these. I'm not sure. I think it did pretty well, though, considering the times we're in. A lot of people are not sure. They haven't announced any more right now, but future stuff, we talked about it in the past, but could use Destroya, one of Joe's favorites, so the Godzilla or kaiju pantheon from Toho, because they use the oxygen destroyer in Godzilla King of the Monsters. Or we could bring in my boy Gigan from outer space, baby, which would be pretty dope. How did they do the chainsaw in his chest? I don't know, but I would be there for it, because I don't know how that would work. Joe's like, I'd be out. I couldn't watch that.
If he can get to the center of the earth with one long breath, he can do that.
It's sustained. It's sustained. He's like, oh baby, oh baby. Maybe it wasn't the actual center. I don't know. It couldn't have been 1,000 miles though, could it? They would have had to fly for a long time. It's just the crust. He just got through the crust, like a pizza crust. Anyway.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, let's move into that next segment of the show that Joe was alluding to earlier that Joe likes to call, we all like to call...
Time Killers.
That's right, it's time for Time Killers. It's the games we've been playing, the shows, movies we've been watching and viewing. Joe, what have you been killing time with? my friend.
You had mentioned Enola Holmes.
I did.
Good movie. Really surprised by it. I actually really liked it. I actually forgot this a couple episodes ago as a time killer because it's been a few weeks since I watched it. But
you watched it for Henry Cavill, right?
Well, yeah, I saw he was in it, and I'm like, yeah, it's clearly got to be good. So no, Haley and I just sat down one Saturday night and like, yeah, we're in the mood for a movie. Let's give her a watch, and sure did, and did not regret whatsoever. It was great. It was great. It's
nice.
It's truly worth a watch. I think it's high quality, well done. It keeps you on your toes and thinking, and it's not too over the top or anything by any means.
Nice.
And I think that that Millie, whatever her name is, she's
Bobby
good.
Brown. Yeah.
Does a good job.
Well, in these other movies she's been in, besides Stranger Things, she gets to play someone who's more like a normal, or like more of like an interesting, I should say enthusiastic, not necessarily interesting, but more of like a character with bigger personality. Because like Eleven in Stranger Things is very like, I was a scientist's kid, like, or I'm an experiment, and I'm just kind of weird. I've had these powers that, it's maybe harder for her
I
to...
quit watching halfway through season 1. She could move a few things. That's about it.
Fair enough,
Yeah, anywho, other than that, time killer wise, I've played a little bit of Outriders. I think I played more demo thus far than I have the real game because of glitching problems, unfortunately. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I don't want that. I don't want what I just said to shy people away. I still think it's a good game. I think it's worth giving a try. Hopefully they've got their issues ironed out for multiplayer. Yeah. I've heard most of the issues are for cross-platform play, cross-play. But we'll see. Give it more of a shot this weekend with you and the gang here. So otherwise, time killing, what have I been doing? Oh, Yellowstone. Oh, gosh. Only 3 seasons out right now. I'm sure they're doing a season 4 from what I've heard, but I'm halfway through season 2 and it's addicting. I really like it.
Cool. And that's with good old Kurt Russell?
Kevin Costner.
Kevin Costner, my bad. Kurt Russell, Kevin Costner, and Michael Keaton. I always group them together. I don't know why. All good. All distinct.
I kind of get that.
I don't mean that they're all the same. They're all just amazing.
Fact, Kevin Costner played Jonathan Kent in Man of Steel. It was Clark's dad, Kevin Costner.
And he died in a really kind of not comical way, but it just puts the hand up. They should have done the heart attack. I know it would have been too much of a callback to like not only this show, but how like he dies in like Superman 1 or 2. But I love that because like Superman can't do everything. Like he can't save someone who has a heart attack. Like he can punch someone all day, but he can't save you from that. So also a little safety fact: do not go under an underpass during a tornado. You're better off in a ditch because they'll start a vacuum. It'll be like a vacuum into that thing, and you'll get sucked right out. So little PSA there for people who watch Man of Steel. I just watched it recently.
A culvert.
Yeah, just jump in something. Get as low as you can. As low as you can. Don't go into the overpass. Yeah. Is that everything you've been killing time with?
That is everything. How about yourself, Jimmy?
Oh, well, Joe, I've been a busy little bee. So I've been playing some Outriders as well. I've been able to play a bit by myself just because I kept getting kicked from playing with friends, and I was like, you know what? There was like one night I think you guys were on, and I was like, I kept getting kicked. I couldn't like log in. I was like, I'll come back to this, but I've been enjoying it. I think it's fun. I'm interested to see what it's like later on down the line. But my Technomancer somehow overtook my Pyromancer, so got to get my Pyromancer all beefed up now. I found it really fun, tricky. It almost feels broken, the combo I have. I'm not invincible, but I can almost fire off super rounds, my blighted rounds, almost indefinitely now with these mod combos I have. It's like, if you get a kill while somebody's toxic, you get 40% of your clip back. And then I got like another thing, if I kill them, I get even more of my clip back. So I just have like poison rounds constantly that are spreading to other people and do a lot of damage. I'm like, okay, like the Technomancer unfortunately doesn't have like a lot of big cool elemental moves. He doesn't have like an ice beam or anything. I kind of wish he did, but it's very much like Arsenal, like minigun, rocket launcher, turrets and stuff. So yeah. As far as other things go, I did like we talked about Godzilla King of the Monsters, obviously, but I watched Shape of Water, which is Guillermo del Toro, one that was
Yeah.
for best. I don't know if it was for best picture. Some of the stuff was a few years ago in the Oscars. I like Guillermo del Toro a lot. I remember a lot of people telling me they were off put by this movie because they're like, oh, it's some lady who has like a fling with a fish man. There's a lot more to it than that, and one of my I don't know, he's becoming one of my favorite actors, but Michael Shannon's in it as a villain, and he has a few moments that are Zod-like, but that guy is just he's just fascinating to like watch work because you just look at him and you're like, yeah, that guy's there's a seriousness about him that's fun to watch. But everybody's good in that movie. Great framing. I don't know, man. It's just Guillermo del Toro makes some really cool, interesting looking films, and this is one of them. If you've seen Hellboy, think of Abe Sapien, the blue guy. Like it's almost like an origin story for him. Almost, he looks a lot like him, like the fish guy in this movie. So yeah, and there's more to it. There's more to it, but it's kind of Beauty and the Beast-ish, almost inverted a little. But I would say check it out. It's on Hulu, which I also watched because I've been looking for it forever. Predators. It's the one with Adrian Brody, and I didn't know this, but Alice Braga from years ago, this came out, and I was amazed by that. Alice Braga, she's in Queen of the South, but she's also going to be in the upcoming The Suicide Squad film. I like this movie so much. It's got Adrian Brody, it's got Alice Braga, it has Topher Grace. It's got some other people in there like Walton Goggins, who is from Justified. You know him as Boyd Crowder, I believe, which is a weird thing because I haven't said that name in many years, and for some reason I just pulled it up right there. But it is a great movie. It's about a bunch of very dangerous people getting transported to a planet, a game preserved for the predators to hunt because the most dangerous game is man. And it is probably. I don't want to. Maybe Predator 1 is my favorite Predator film, but it is still super good. I would highly recommend checking it out. It's very good stuff. Pretty gory at parts, but man, I just like Predators. I know
it should be.
I know you're a Xeno guy, but Predators are just. There's something so fascinating about them. I love it. I love it so much. They're so
I like
cool.
them both.
You can like them both. And then there was one last thing I wanted to talk about. I talked about that. I'm kind of going back to the old Godzilla films just to watch them, and I still do the same thing that I used to do as a child, but that is to skip almost all the people stuff, which means the movies get really condensed down to 10 to 20 minutes long because there's so much stuff with people in those movies. And not that those people do a bad job acting, it just I really came for Godzilla to fight, and there's a lot of personality in those old Godzilla movies. Like Godzilla tried to use his atomic breath and he missed. And instead of just kind of being like, he does like a legit with his hand, like a, oh shoot, snap. Like he takes his hand and he kind of goes, dang it. Like that kind of thing. And I was like, it's great to see Godzilla being like, shucks. And I was like, it's really funny to watch that. Because like nowadays Godzilla would never do that because Godzilla doesn't have thumbs. But yeah, man, it's great. And those old school effects and explosions are still pretty good for this day because they were legit back then in the 70s and stuff. So yeah, been going through that. And then I think that's pretty much everything that I need to talk about today. Anyway, all right, Joe, we're going to finally move into that last segment of the show, which I like to call, and it's my personal favorite segment, community feedback and questions. Yeah, I didn't know if you were gesturing to me to say it. And I was like, I'll say it.
Either or.
But anyway, first one, Joe, comes in, believe it or not, in real life. This one comes into somebody I just spoke to recently. Shout out to my boy Jalen. Jalen, how you doing? Jalen wants to know, Joe, he said, first off, he says, what up to you? He said, hi. He's like, say hi to Joe for me. He loves you. We love you, Jalen. You're great. He wants to know your whole aversion to Frosties and fries. Have you ever tried it, or has it just been something you never wanted to try? Because I made a guess, but I want to see if I'm right. Have you? I don't know.
It's like saying it's like saying instead of gravy on my mashed potatoes, I want to put ice cream on there.
Okay, but have you ever tried it?
No.
Yes, I knew you'd never tried it. I was like, he looked at that and he was like, no, I'm never gonna try that. It's disgusting. Like
exactly.
Yep, I know you.
No.
I know you, bro.
It's like animal fries, but instead of Thousand Island and cheese, you put Ice cream on top. No, it's like, hey, I want my ice cream, my hot fudge sundae, but I want you, instead of to put walnuts or pecans on top, I want you to sprinkle some damn French fries on there. I can't do it.
I think you got to try it once, even if
Or,
it's just
hey,
once.
UDF, I'm getting a nice malt, but in that malt, I want you to blend up some French fries too, because it'll remind me of good old Wendy's. No,
What are you talking about? What's this initialism we're talking about here?
UDF, I don't know, popular ice cream and like convenience store gas station down in Ohio area.
Oh, I never heard of it. Sorry, I was
They
just.
have great malts. Oh my god, their ice cream and stuff is great.
If we ever go to a Wendy's, I'm not gonna force it on you, but if you tried it once, you don't have
I'll
to do
try
it.
it once. I'll try it once. That'll be
Okay.
it.
Okay, but I was like, he's the type of guy who he either A, tried it once and was like, I'll never do this again, or has just been like never interested. And I was like, he's probably never been interested. This one comes in because I wanted people to give me like brief reviews of Godzilla vs. Kong. This one comes in from SCP-49J over on over on our Discord. He says,
Hold on. I want my firstborn is going to be named that.
"That's perfect." Yeah.
SPJ something, whatever the numbers were. Can you imagine if people started that?
Let's see if I can do this. So it'd be Sierra Charlie Papa dash 4 Niner Juliet. That's what it would probably be.
That was good. That was good.
Thank you. I always forget P is Papa. Such a weird in the military alphabet, right? He says, less Godzilla, more monkey. They say this plenty in the movie. I understand that everybody says this. He is not a monkey. He is an ape. And monkeys and apes are different, right? Am I wrong? I want to know if I'm wrong about this, because I thought monkeys had tails and they were different.
I don't even know. Is that even really a classification? I guess, yeah, I think you're right. They have to have a tail to
I thought that was part of it.
a monkey, but
Am I nuts? I might be
they're a
nuts.
primate. The classification would be primate, right?
I would think so.
Opposable thumbs, right?
Yeah.
And then you have lemurs, which are a little offshoot, and they're not a primate because they're something. I don't
You're
know.
right. It says primates here, Joe. I wanted to see what there was what the actual like big difference is. I think there are multiple differences between them. But anyway, a lot of people say monkey. I think it's just a fun term to say, monkey. Yeah, it says almost all monkeys have tails. Apes do not. So there. But anyway, I know he's probably just joking, and I'm not trying to put you on blast. SCP-49J. I feel like in the future, that's what people's names will be, by the way. And we got a write in here from LBW-467. Like, thank you. Appreciate that.
That's totally just, yeah, I mean, exactly. I was just joking that I named my firstborn something like that.
That's the future.
SPJ497.
That'll be our call signs. We'll be like stormtroopers. Be like, you're TK421. I'll be like, I'm a trooper knight, baby. This one comes in from Zora Caviar, a.k.a. Caden. He says, the funniest part of the movie was when they were like, oh yeah, the entire civilization on Skull Island was wiped out in a storm or something. How convenient. And he sends in a crying, smiling face. They just couldn't have the... Yeah, she was the last of her kind. I'm this. You know what? This will be the movie I defend from everybody. He says the Hollow Earth.
That little girl was the last of her kind.
Yeah, because they said that the storm overtook the island, and then Monarch must have put the outpost down and prevented the storm from getting into the island. Yep. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's how it works. We don't need to know. Also, I appreciate the fact they didn't show us like them tranking Kong. They just did it. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I don't need to see that. There's an offhand line about it. You can see that the restraints have this, like the sedative in there. They didn't have to do the whole like, all right, trank him, like shoot him a bunch and then bring him and put him on there. Just like, no, you can just trank him. That's great.
Yeah, because that had to have been something pretty potent.
Yeah.
Either that or it was a lot of it.
Oh yeah, probably both. They had him at like 80 or 88% tranquilized. I'm like, that's such a fun reading. Like, I guess there would be levels, but they're like, all right, don't let him dip below 50. You know, otherwise he's gonna wake up. Even though those chains, for the first time in movie history, on a super monster like that, it seemed like they really held him back. I thought it was gonna be one of those things where he just clipped him right off. Like he was just gonna be like, yep, I can get out of these. But it was like, oh no, he actually. Was like,
oh yeah, I thought there was going to be something like that too, but I mean they had some pretty hefty stuff on him.
He got the collar off. We'll give him that. He got his own collar off. He was just like, yeah. I was like, oh, Dang. He says this too. The Hollow Earth sequence was super, super dope. I really just want a movie with no humans and no plot other than Godzilla wanders the Hollow Earth and kills things. More kaiju fights. Which the director said recently, apparently to EW or something. He said that like people are ready for it. Like for one of these movies with less humans or almost no humans. And that's not him throwing shade at the actors. I think he's just saying people are ready. We have the technology now to make it where it's like it's from Godzilla's point of view for most of the film. Like as opposed to just 8 minutes here or there. I think it'd be really interesting. The storytelling would have to be different too, because you'd have to tell it in like nonverbals, like kind of like Kong with the sign language and stuff, which I thought was a cool way for him to communicate. But yeah.
Kong was smarter than me.
He's pretty smart.
Then I guess they let on.
Yeah.
He can communicate, for crying out loud.
I thought Godzilla did something too. Oh, also, side note, I forgot to mention this. Like we were talking about the camera angles, there's a great moment where Mechagodzilla is smashing Godzilla's face into buildings, and there's a camera shot from a building, and it shows Mechagodzilla like take his head, slam it into one building, slam it into another building, and then the last building is the building that the camera's in, and stuff like that you wouldn't normally do like on a real practical set, but I really appreciated it because I'm like, oh, this is such a cool vantage point because you're like, oh, this seems pretty violent. Oh my God, they're coming in here, and it's just like that.
Yeah,
it's like they tag teamed
there was
him.
One.
Oh, so good.
What was it? It was Kong laying on the ground or something, and at the end of it, like the dust had settled a little bit or something. I remember it was like pink and purple or pink and blue or whatever, neon, and I'm like, of everything that's destroyed around them, those neon strip lights are the most resilient lights I've ever seen in my life. If I ever have to order some for a project, that's what I'm getting.
Do it. You got to.
Call up the vendor. I want the ones that were in the Godzilla movie.
I'm going to need your best neon.
Turn off.
I need the best neon lights you've got from Hong Kong. Send them over ASAP. I need it for this business. Yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention this too. When they team up on him, on Mechagodzilla, and you get that rodeo moment where Kong kind of grabs his face and cranks him back, and he's shooting the laser off into space. And I was just like, oh, it's so great. Kong's all just like, woohoo! it's like you got him. He's like, I'm helping with this fight, baby. We're buddies now. The little girl told me we're buds, even though you definitely almost killed me by slashing into my chest.
It's like burning knuckles off.
Joe's like, the oil doesn't make any sense. That ape should be dead. Yeah, I just like watching them team up together. It brought a tear to my eye. I was tearing up last night watching the second time. It's beautiful. Anyway, if you guys ever want to write into the show, if you have a question or an idea or a comment or whatever else for future episodes, please do anytime when you're listening to this, or leave a comment down below. I would love to hear from you, but just tweet the hashtag Critical Podcast and just tweet it at GoCritical. Or you can tweet at me. I'm JimmyGood013. I'd love you to send me some Godzilla gifs, even if they're the old-fashioned ones, because honestly, the old ones are some of my favorites. There's some really great stuff. Godzilla gets like parallel to the ground, and does like a kick, like a drop kick, and flies. It's incredible. It's so cool. He does it with like his tail. He's like balancing on his tail. Anyway, if you want to find Joe, he is at JoeLever_627. It's Beaver just like Lever, or Lever just like Beaver, only with an L. Dang it, I'm not used to this.
That is Beaver just like Lever, only with a B.
You're right. I'm sorry. I tried to do it for you so it wouldn't be a problem. But I did it wrong anyway.
I appreciate it, pal.
Yeah, I'm trying to help out. But anyway, yes, please, everybody, we'd love to hear from you. And again, if you are listening to just an audio version of this, please let us know. I know there's a few of you out there, according to the metrics. So thank you to whomever is listening out there. A share would be appreciated. That's all I'm going to ask you to do. But if you want to support us any further, we were talking about this earlier. I stream on Twitch. I'm going to stream some Outriders. Probably going to stream some more of that. Hopefully Joe will be on one of those streams. But we have that. By the time this is going out, I'm moving shop from Spreadshirt over to Teespring because I'm ordering some face masks for an upcoming trip to definitely, when people ask what I'm filming for, I will just get to point at my face and say this. And they'll be like, oh, that's what it is. And it's like critical reviews on my face. It's marketing, baby. So Yeah, Teespring's got some pretty legit masks, I've heard. And if you hit a certain amount of subs, Joe, you can integrate it into your YouTube videos. But guess what? We are not anywhere near close to that, and that's totally fine. So that's okay. So if you want to check out Teespring, you don't have to, but it's just there. Also, huge thanks to our patrons who bring you this show every week. Their funding, keeps us going. It's I appreciate it. It's the moral support's good too. Just hanging out, saying hi, giving us a like. You don't have to do it though. I just want people to hang out and have a good time, and safe space. Share your ideas. If you want to call Kong a monkey, you can do it here. Just know that I'm going to say something about it, but it's okay. You call him whatever you want, because really, he's his own thing. Oh,
He's
and this
Kong,
gives.
damn it.
And my last thing I want to say about this, in the intro, which I love the whole blackouts, they black out a bunch of the information, like they're doing that in the old, like, Godzilla 2014, Joe. Remember the one with, like, Bryan Cranston? They block out, like, Walter White. It says it somewhere, and they black it out. And it's like the intro. I love they show, like, Godzilla all of defeated, and then they show, like, it shows all the ones he's defeated, and then it shows, like, Kong defeated, like, a skull crawler, but they don't show you his half of the screen. But Godzilla's got this, like, big, like, he's defeated a bunch of these massive kaiju, and it's like, Kong took out, like, 2 skull crawlers in the 70s. They're ready to fight. It's like, that's not fair. That's different things, man. Kong's just padding his resume. He's like, well, I've been fighting massive creatures like Godzilla for years. I'm ready for it. I'm ready to do this. It's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Anyway, Joe, thank you for being on the show as always. Appreciate you, buddy.
Appreciate you, pal. Pleasure as always.
Thank you. And to everybody else out there, appreciate you. Thank you. And until next time, just remember to adapt and overcome. Bye-bye.